Hello and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Thursday Thoughts? What on earth are they, I hear you ask? Well, my friend Lucy and I meet every week over on Instagram to talk all things personal growth because she is as obsessed with it as I am. And we decided that we might as well put those conversations out as a weekly podcast. So now you can listen to us chat here on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll be talking about topics such as spirituality, limiting beliefs, the ego, imposter syndrome, gratitude, meditation, confidence, and so much more. So if you're ready, here we go.
It's so weird that you suggested journaling because, as I said, like literally, you messaged me like 45 minutes ago, didn't you, saying, should we do journaling? And I have literally last night recorded a mini-sode about journaling. But for anyone who's listening to this after we've done this live on the podcast, this won't be coming out for about, I think it's maybe 2 weeks. So by the time this comes out, I will have already put out that Saturday minisode, which goes out this coming Saturday because we're recording this on the 15th of April. But it's so weird. I was like, that is so strange.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
So
isn't
strange.
that so weird? It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because
so weird.
I suggested journaling because it's something which it's something which hasn't been a consistent practice for me over the years. However, at the moment, it's becoming much, much more of a consistent practice, and it's something which I'm finding really, really helpful and useful for me. So I kind of just thought actually it'd be quite a good thing to talk about because, yeah, I mean, for you, Lucy, is it a consistent? Have you always journaled?
No, I haven't always journaled, but I have been journaling. Like you, it has been something that I've been doing, but not necessarily consistently. I go through phases. And I used to journal when I was much, much, much younger, like when I was a kid. But sadly, I didn't keep it up. And one of my very, very best friends, Hannah, she used to journal, I remember, every single night. And actually, I wish that I had kept a journal. Because can you imagine if you kept a journal
No.
every single day of your life? It would just be unbelievable. It would be mind blowing. But no, so I've been journaling for the last, I'd say 3 or 4 years, but it's been a very sort of on and off. Like sometimes I'm really into it and I do it quite consistently, and then I kind of get completely out of the habit. My current journaling practice that I'm doing, well, it's funny because today, as I say, having recorded a minisode about journaling literally yesterday, and I did a bit of research to do that minisode. So I have started a new journaling practice literally this morning, but I'll get onto that. But up until that point, for the last few months, I've been doing a 6 minute diary, which I think I mentioned previously. I can't speak previously on our Monday Motivation, which basically it's a brand called Your Best Self. You are best self. Your best self. And you literally do 3 minutes in the morning and 3 minutes in the evening. And there are three prompts for the morning and three prompts for the evening. So in the morning, it's you journal three things you're grateful for, you journal how you're going to make the day great, you journal a positive affirmation, and then in the evening you say, what went well today, and then you say how can you improve, and you say what your good deed for the day was. So I've been doing that for the last few months, which is, and the thing I really love about that particular kind of journaling is that you can't really make an excuse for not doing it when it's literally going to take you 6 minutes and 3 minutes in the morning and 3 minutes at night. And I really like the idea of writing gratitude, and I really like the idea of writing, how I'm going to make the day good. And also having to sort of report on a good deed for the day means that you're actually much more proactive about looking out for things that you can do, looking out for little good deeds as you go around your day. But speaking of the gratitude bit, when I first started journaling kind of 3 or 4 years ago, actually, it was largely based around gratitude. And I would write out about, I think it was either 5 or 10 things that I was grateful for. Because we all, you and I have talked about gratitude on this before, and there are so many benefits. But one of the practices that I've been doing quite a lot over these few years is doing future gratitude, which sounds completely bonkers if you're not into this kind of thing. But I personally believe that it's a really good thing to do, getting you into that state of, embodying the future you. And so my journaling, my gratitude practice over the last few years has looked like some things that I'm grateful for in the here and now, and other things that I'm grateful for that haven't happened yet. Because ultimately, when it comes to, creating the life that we want and raising our vibration and being in, being in alignment with the vibrational frequency of the things that we want to attract into our life, it's a really helpful way of doing that. So yeah, gratitude has definitely been a big part of it. But weirdly today, and this is something I talk about on the minisode, I've started doing morning pages, which I'm sure that you've heard about.
Yeah,
so for anyone,
yeah,
right, and so I'm sure that lots of people listening or watching this will have heard of morning pages, but for those of you who haven't, so Morning Pages was created by, it's Julia Cameron, isn't it? And it's a book called The Artist's Way, which I actually really want to read. I heard about it years ago, still haven't, a couple of years ago anyway, still haven't got around to reading it. But this woman, Julia Cameron, came up with this journaling practice called Morning Pages, whereby you literally write any old shit. It can be your freaking shopping list. It can be a rant about something that's annoying you. It can be about your goals. It can be about your dreams. It can literally, but you can write a load of drivel. It doesn't matter. She just says, write. You just got to write. But the 3 stipulations are that, number 1, you have to do it as early in the morning as you possibly can. And she says before your ego takes hold, basically, so that you're really open. And in the same way that you and I kind of meditate and do breath work first thing in the morning, because your brain is still in that very sort of receptive mode, Julia Cameron also suggests that you do that with journaling. So that's the first thing. You do it in the morning, and it has to be longhand. And the other thing is that it has to be 3 pages. Now, this is the thing that put me off it initially, because she says 3 pages of US letterhead, which is A4. So 3 pages of A4, writing, not typing. That has put me off for quite a long time. So I just thought, bloody hell. But I have actually decided that I'm going to, because you know how quite a lot of journals aren't A4. Journals tend to be more like A5 or somewhere around that, so like a journal size. But I'm going to just, I've said to myself, look, if I just start doing morning pages and I write 3 pages of a journal size, do you know what? It's better than fucking not doing it at all. But the reason I've just started this, and the reason I have been wanting to start it for a while, is because I've read quite a lot of articles of various people who have said that doing morning pages has really changed their freaking lives. Like anything, not going to happen in a week, not going to happen in a month, going to happen over time. But I am really curious to see if it has a positive impact on my life, not least because when we journal, one of the main sort of benefits and one of the main reasons for journaling is because by writing things down, that is actually a way of processing our emotions. So we are kind of self-regulating our emotions. And whether it's, for example, if we are really angry with someone, or if we're feeling jealous of someone, or whatever, those kinds of uglier emotions that we all have, or even a kind of if we've been through a trauma that we feel like we can't talk to anyone about, by actually writing, journaling on those emotions and good emotions, but particularly the bad ones, we are actually helping ourselves to process them. And it is a way of working through those emotions. So that's one of the brilliant things about journaling. So yeah, that's what so that's where I am now. I've just literally an hour ago done my first ever morning pages.
Amazing.
We'll see how they last.
Amazing. Well done. So yeah, I'm similar in that I used to journal as a child, and then I've had periods in my life where I have journaled. And I've always had, I've had a journal on the go for probably the last few years, and it was very sporadic. However, I don't know what's drawn me to it more, but I've just been journaling more and more. And I find that, yes, I do the morning pages. I definitely don't do 3 lots of A4. I probably do 3 pages of A5. And what's really interesting about that is that, yes, as you say, it's great for me, it's great for clarity. It's just getting all of the messiness in my head out. Blech. It's almost like it's like a brain dump. It's all just comes out onto the page, and it just kind of it's kind of quite freeing. I find you just kind of getting it all down, and so that kind of helps you to kind of get some sort of clarity, and just get your thoughts out. If we keep everything within, we know what it's like. It just everything gets trapped, and it can really make us feel a bit like we're about to explode. But actually, when we can get everything out, it really just releases all of that tension and those just all those sort of negative feelings onto the page. And it does that. I really find it works. What I have found really interesting, which I've been experimenting with, is I will just journal without doing any meditation or any breath work, and I'll just see what comes out, and that can be like a brain dump. It's almost like spilling everything in your mind. Then I will do a breath work. I'll do some breath work, I'll do a bit of a meditation, and then I will journal afterwards. And it's really interesting to see the difference between how I approach both of those bits of journaling, and both are good. Both I think are equally good. I love doing the brain dump, getting everything out. But I find after I've done some breath work and some meditation, actually, I just feel like I'm just so much more creative. I have more ideas. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's still just waffle, but it's just interesting. It just feels a little easier and flowy. It's coming from a different place.
Yeah.
It's not coming so much from my ego, from my busy mind, which is always like, it's actually coming from a different place where that sort of ego has almost stepped aside, and it's kind of coming from maybe more, more from me, or it's more of a kind of a stream of consciousness coming through. So that's really interesting. And I find it, yes, I mean, I never go back and look at it, but actually I just find it so helpful to start my day to setting an intention and kind of almost, it's almost like kind of cleaning the slate before you kind of step into the day. And I find that's really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing, actually, I'm interested to know what you tend to find that you write before you do the breathwork or meditation, because I've been thinking about what kind of things I'm going to write in my morning pages. And actually, before I forget to say this, for anyone who is thinking about starting a journaling practice, and particularly these morning pages, one thing that Julia Cameron is very clear on is that we don't have to write anything remotely interesting. We don't have to write anything remotely creative. We don't have to write anything that even makes particular sense. It's not about writing something profound or whatever. It literally can be absolutely anything.
It can be like, I don't even know what to write, so I'm just going to write this. I don't know what to write. And actually that process is the process which, if you are feeling a little bit blocked or stuck or stagnant, can help you just to clear that stagnation and that blockage, and just so that you can sort of make way for other stuff. So
completely. So it really can be literally anything. And like I said just now, like, it can be your shopping list, it can be, oh shit, I forgot that I didn't book a dentist appointment and I was meant to, or it can be, anything. She I think she uses the word, like, it can be like literally anything, the sort of banalities of, like, is that a word? Banalities.
Yeah, it sounds,
you know what I mean? Really, like, really just boring shite of life. You can journal on that, as long as you're just getting those words out onto the page. And there's a reason why, actually. So one thing she does say is that we mustn't type out morning pages. It has to be written word. And actually, this makes me laugh because, number one, my writing is so shit that I now write in capital letters, and I've been writing capital letters for as long as I can remember, because my writing is completely illegible. I literally write in capitals. And the other thing I'll say is that whenever I write, bloody hell, my hand hurts. And when I did those 3 pages this morning, my wrist was really aching, but I can only assume that it's going to get better the more I do it. So I'm just gonna like not allow that to, give me an excuse to not do it. But one other thing actually I was going to say that I know that I will do, not necessarily every day, but certainly it's going to be one of the things that I journal about. I'm going to journal about my future life as if it's already happened. So I will, and this is what I do in like visualization. We've talked about visualization before. I will be journaling about about basically in the same way that I do future gratitude, and I think that is it's such a good opportunity to do that. Because again, going back to what you and I have talked about before, we want to be thinking about where we're going, not where we've been or what's going wrong and all the rest of it. We want to be talking about, thinking about, writing about where we're headed and what we want, what we desire. So I will most certainly be using those 3 pages to write about the vision that I have for my future. And you know, I don't think it matters necessarily the way that you write it, although I tend to, like, for example, when I'm doing my just writing future gratitude, I'll be like, I am so grateful that Jennifer Aniston finally came on my podcast, or I am so grateful that, you know, Johnny and I, my cat, are now living in our beautiful house with our beautiful garden. Da, 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 da. So yeah, I think I don't know where I was going with that, but it was really just to say that that's definitely one of the things that I will be journaling on. But I was interested to know what you tend to write when you do that initial brain dump. What are you actually writing about? Are you writing about, because for example, this morning when I wrote those 3 pages this morning, I literally wrote, oh, well, here I am writing my first ever morning pages. Not quite sure what I'm going to write about, but hang on, I think I might just write about my plans for the day. So I said, first of all, Polly and I have got Monday motivation and blah, 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 blah. And it was just like really kind of like slightly dull, but about what my plans were for the day.
And that's
Is that
it.
what you...
That's it. That's exactly it. It's just I always sort of start off like that, and then sort of other things come in, and you know, and I know what's coming today, so it kind of actually ended up going towards that and getting my thoughts clear about the people I'm going to be meeting today, and it just flows through that. And I think that's a kind of a quite nice way to do it if you're doing it in the morning, right? What have I got coming up today? And it almost sort of flows through how you're going to turn up and how you're going to be as the day goes on. It is sometimes quite nice to have prompts on your journaling, and I quite like that. So I'm part of a collective group with the lovely Kirsty. She actually did I haven't quite finished it yet. I was so good it was a month. It was 30 days of it was a challenge for social media and posting and stuff like that. But every other day was she gave a journal prompt to kind of just really, you know, find out what might be stopping you from showing up as yourself, or, you know, basically to kind of really prompt us to try and really think about how we want to be showing up, but it going deep in a much deeper way. And that was really interesting because so many things came out which I thought I had overcome. So the fear of what people might think, but I thought I was over that. But actually, sometimes when you're journaling, it's like, oh my goodness, that fear is still lingering there, and you know, that's what's stopping me here. So there are so many different prompts you can find online. You know, you just need to search up some journal prompts, but just you could almost give yourself an intention if there is something which you are feeling stuck in, something which you want to overcome. Perhaps you've got lots of self-doubt about something you want to do. That is a really good place to start journaling, I think, because you can kind of dig deeper. What's underneath all of it? What's the why underneath the why type of thing? And when you journal, that is what's coming through, because you're saying, oh my gosh, I didn't realise that I was thinking that. I hope that kind of makes sense, because I think ultimately that's what it does. It kind of you get into your thought processes, and particularly those limiting beliefs which are holding you back and keeping you stuck. And it's only when you can start to uncover those, and you can do that through journaling, that actually they start to, you can start to actually go, oh, but is that really true? That's a really good thing to think about when you're journaling. Really just keep asking yourself that question. But is that the truth? You know, does it really matter what people think? Or does it, I am bloody good enough, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that will help those limiting beliefs to start to get weaker and hopefully eventually fade away. a very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
Totally. Because, of course, what journaling does when you're actually writing down what you're thinking and feeling, if you're not a person who is necessarily very aware of what you're thinking and feeling, this is a really, really good way of bringing self-awareness into your life and just becoming more aware of what is going on in your head and why, perhaps why you may do certain things or whatever it is. And like you say, it brings, it can make you focus in on certain things that are holding you back and limiting beliefs. And actually, Polly, one thing I was just gonna say about this, that, for those people who are thinking, fuck, I don't have time to do 3 pages of, journaling every morning. One thing is that, there are no rules. It doesn't even have to be in the morning. If you're the kind of person who, but I know people who journal in the evening before they go to bed, and I think that's a really common practice. It doesn't have to be in the morning. It doesn't have to be 3 sides. It can literally be for 5 minutes. So, it's beneficial. However, it works for you. One thing I'm just going to do quickly, I'm going to bring up my notes from this mini-sode that I did, because I just want to read out a couple of the actual benefits I think are really quite interesting. Helps cultivate more self-awareness. Writing down our emotions actually helps us process them. What else did I put? Sorry, love. Yeah, basically there's research by a guy called James Pennebaker, Dr. James Pennebaker, who's done all sorts of research into journaling. And he has shown that writing in a journal can have a significant effect, not just on your mental health, but also on your physical health, which I think is just crazy and really interesting. And it says, so his research has shown a link between journaling and reduced blood pressure, better immune function, as well as better psychological well-being. And he says that acknowledging and labeling, like we were saying earlier, like traumatic events, for example, through journaling has a really positive effect, because it can allow us to organize that event in our mind so that we can make more sense of it. And one thing that he says is that he actually, Dr. Pennebaker, is not a fan of everyday journaling. He reckons that 15 to 30 minutes of journaling, just, a couple of times a week or once a week, can still be beneficial. So it's really, I think, about finding what works for you. But whatever it looks like and whatever way you do it is in some way going to be beneficial, whether that's just writing down 5 things you're grateful for, or having, like you say, a brain dump in the morning, or writing your intentions for the day, or in the evening just doing a little roundup of how your day went, how you feel. And also, I think one of the good things about doing it at night is it's really, really good to before we go to sleep, we really want to be focusing on good things rather than bad things. What we don't want to be doing when we drift off to sleep is lying there ruminating about all the things that went wrong that day. So actually, a journaling practice, writing about, for example, the things that went right that day or the things that we want to achieve the next day, can be a really good way of getting you into the frame of mind that you want to be in when you literally go to sleep. Because this is something that Wayne Dyer talks a lot about, or used to talk a lot about, is how those moments before you go to sleep are so incredibly important. I've heard other people talking about this as well. We want to make sure that as we are drifting off to sleep, we're thinking about the things that we want, not the things that we don't want, because they are going into our subconscious, and that's what we're going to hold in our mind as we go into sleep. So I think that is quite relevant.
And I totally agree, but I would add to that it is also a really brilliant practice that if, say, for example, you have had an argument with someone and you're full of rage and you're full of it's a really good practice to just get that out onto the paper, better than actually going and exploding at somebody else, which is not going to be very helpful, and actually getting all of that emotion on the paper. But obviously pick your time to do that, because it is literally like spilling it out of you. But yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Before you go to bed, it's such a love. You could do it before that, and then actually then turn it up and actually really think about all the nice things, so that you're going to bed feeling really calm, really peaceful, thinking about what you want to. That you because actually then it has an impact on your dreams and your thoughts and all of that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. But I think, again, it's like it's really important that everybody does what works for them. And if it makes sense for you to write a journal in the middle of the day, then that's also perfectly fine. I think, the key thing is to just get something down on paper, and it doesn't really matter because, like James Pennebaker thinks that you don't need to do it every day. Julia Cameron thinks you need to do it every day and you need to do it every morning and la la la. So everybody obviously has a different take on it. But if it's something, I just think that it's if it's something that you have been thinking about doing, because of course, journaling has become such a thing, hasn't it? So many people. I mean, I said this on the minisode, but you've only got to look on Amazon at journals, and it's
Well,
overwhelming the amount of.
I was
And it's
about to
dangerous because
say,
journals are just so lush. I could like die. I could just like socially
yeah,
just makes me die.
I
It's
was
just
about
it's
to
so amazing.
say, it's actually really nice though to get yourself a really lovely,
Yeah.
lovely book. I got this one actually, which I was given, which is You're One Breath Away. This is by Pause, which I got given. But I've got a whole load of lovely, different coloured journals, and actually I keep one by my bed. I keep one here in my office on my desk, and so I don't actually necessarily always write in the same book. I just write just so I've got it there, and
Mm,
and it is nice to have a nice book and treat
yeah.
yourself to that, because it just makes it more of a special practice, and just treat that time when you are journaling as a real sacred time for you, because
Yeah.
that's also, it is a nice practice, rather than, oh, it's just another thing I've got to tick off my list. We want to
Yeah.
get away from that, because
Yeah.
otherwise it's not serving the purpose. It's actually a really lovely time. You could actually almost make it into a little ritual. You could light a candle, write your
Yeah.
journal. So yeah.
And it's definitely, look upon it as something that is part of your sort of self-care routine, because actually, taking, that might be the only time in your day that you are actually taking for yourself, by yourself, with yourself, just allowing yourself to be in the moment. And it's, it is such a great mindfulness practice, because you have to be in the moment when you're journaling, don't you? Like, when I do my 6-minute diary, it's like I am, right there in the moment, thinking about how I'm going to make the day great. And it's and as we know, as you know, I've talked about a lot on this on this podcast on Monday Motivation. Mindfulness is just so important, and we want to be bringing our awareness to the present moment as much as we can. So journaling is a really good opportunity to do that, and a really good excuse to just give ourselves that time that we might not have during the rest of our kind of crazy days. As we know, life just gets in the way. So if you can carve out even just 5 or 10 minutes to do that, then it's a really nice thing to do. And like I said at the beginning, I've read so many articles about people who have made journaling a practice and have said that it really has had a hugely positive impact on their life, and it's enabled them to work through various problems and various issues. Because even if you start off writing out, what you need to buy from the supermarket that day, you might end up having a revelation, and like you said, it's just about sort of a brain dump and just getting everything out onto the page so that you can start making sense of it. So yeah.
Yes. Well, it is, yeah, 1:30. I think that's everything, unless there's anything else you want to add. But yeah, I would just really
No.
encourage people just to, some people may, you have a really good practice of journaling. If not, just, yeah, get yourself a nice notebook and just get your thoughts down and just see how it makes you feel. Again, it might not be your thing, but if you feel called to do it, then I would really recommend it. And I'm finding that actually, more than anything, it's the time that I'm taking for myself
Yeah.
to, I'm finding more and more, the more space I give myself for these sorts of practices, actually, the more productive I am,
Yeah.
generally with my work. And, it's that sort of oxymoron, is that the right word? Where actually it feels wrong. Is that the right word? I don't know if it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where it
Where
doesn't
where that,
feel, yeah,
like a
it doesn't
contradiction.
feel, it doesn't feel like I've got time, but then actually it kind of creates more time, because actually
Yeah.
you feel so much more ready to get on with something in a more focused way once you do something like that. So yeah.
100%. And may I just say that when my alarm went off at 5 o'clock this morning, because I had gone to 5:25 wake up time, but now I've gone back to 5, which is what I started off with like 4 years ago. And I have an accountability buddy who I phone at 5, or we phone each other at 5. And when my alarm went off at 5 this morning, and it was still dark and, cold and blah, 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 I have to say, when you do create that, you sort of create that extra time for yourself first thing in the morning, it makes so much difference. I mean, we've talked about morning routines before, but I can't help but bang on about them because they're just the best thing ever. But even when you don't want to do it, that if you just can make yourself get out of bed, and just get going, then you will always thank yourself. And it means that you have time to do things like journaling. And when you carve out that time first thing in the day, you feel so much better for the rest of the day. You feel so chuffed with yourself that and also it clears your mind, doesn't it? It just means that you're starting the day off from a really positive place, in a really good mindset. And that ultimately is going to impact your entire life. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
Let's wrap it up there. That's a good place to finish. Yeah, amazing. So yeah, we'll see. Well, we'll be back next week with something else.
God knows what. Probably decide half an hour before. See you later, love. Have a good day.
Take care. All right. Bye.